Hey everybody, it's Shelley, and if you couldn't tell, it's Halloween. And if you're not a fan of Orange is the New Black, or if you are, you will know that I am G. Mendez, and if you're not good, I'm going to write you up a shot, if you remember what that is, and I'm with the Federal Department of Corrections. So, with that said, this is we're having all kinds of Halloween gremlin problems. Of course, it's Halloween. So we have about 3 people missing from here, and people are falling off and coming back in. So Google Hangouts, I'm not sure what you're up to. But the good news is we're here, and it's Funday School for Business. And on this Halloween, this is actually our last Funday School, and we have had the best time over the last 9 months sharing conscious business practices and having our illustrious panel share their input. They're all business owners, and they come in and they talk to us about how they work in their business with some of the practices we have shared over the last 9 months. Today's topic, I can't see, so let me move these. What do you define as valuable in your business world, and how do you share that value and measure it? Another way to say that is, what does success look like to you? Not just in your business, but in other businesses. How do you define it? How do you measure success? And I think I'm going to get this kicked off, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our panelists to introduce themselves. They'll introduce themselves as we go along. But I'm Shelley Roth. I've been doing social media training, consulting, and speaking for, 8 years now. And that's a long time in the world of social media. And if there's anything I've learned over the course of being in social media, it is, everybody mute yourself who's on the panel, please. I've learned that success with social media isn't all measured by money. I've learned that success is measured by engagement, by building relationships. And one of the things, I guess I'll go first, of course, and talk, and then we'll turn it over to everybody. Don't forget to introduce yourselves. One of the things I've realized that it really is about adding value and sharing value and building relationships. When you do all those things, the money will flow. I'm going to put my glasses back on. Actually, I can't see. The money will flow. We're companies, public companies are all about their bottom line, and when they do a balance sheet, the one asset that you always see on a balance sheet is profitability. And yet you never see a line item for employees, their relationships, or employees, like how many people were healthy this year because they were given more time to take care of their health by joining a gym and participating in a group walk or giving to charity. So many other things we can measure value with other and beyond money. Not that money's not important. But what I've learned with social media is when you get people to like, comment, and share on things that make you laugh. I mean, humor is an asset. Nature, being able to appreciate nature and be part of nature can be an asset in your business. At least it is in mine. 70% of the time on social media, I am sharing and building relationships by having people laugh, by sharing motivational tips. That's all valuable to me. That's valued. And a couple notes that I made that I want to make sure I cover is it's really more, instead of return on investment, we should think about return on influence. And something I just read the other day, stop striving for the metric of more. I love this. Stop striving for the metric of more and focus more on the metric of meaning. That just really resonated with me. Money and currency have really morphed into more than that. They've morphed into social relationships and being social. Those are the new currencies with social media, building relationships. So I've kind of covered a lot of ground, and I've kind of jumped all over the place, which is usually what I'm really good at. I guess I'm going to stop there because we did get started late, and I want to make sure everybody has time to talk about Funday School and the topic today. Hold on one second. We are getting calls through Google. Yikes. Stop. Not sure how to answer a call inside of a Hangout, so that's a new one. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go in this order. We're going to start with with Sharon, and then we're going to go to Sherry, and then Courtney, and then Jacoby will bring up the rear. She's our facilitator. Jacoby, do you see Q&A at all? Yes? Okay, good. So anybody that wants to comment, please do jump into the Q&A section. We'll read them intermittently as we go. You should see that turned on. And let's go ahead and start with Sharon.
Okay, my name is Sharon Jenkins, and I'm the Master Communicator, and I own a writing service. Okay. Now let's go to what does success look like in my business. I believe the word impact. IMPACT is the way to define how I measure success in my business. Am I having an impact in my industry? Am I having an impact in the lives of my clients and customers? Am I having an impact in the world? Am I having an impact in my life? What kind of impact is my rendering service bringing to me? Because I believe what you sow into the earth comes back to you. So, am I sowing good seed in my industry and into the lives of my customers? And what kind of harvest or impact am I generating as a result of that service? Okay, so we got another phone call coming. Hey, it's Halloween. Well, anyway, when I measure my success at the end of the year, I measure it by the long-standing relationships and what my customers say about the service that I render to them. What kind of impact did my service have on their lives, on their business? What kind of impact does my service render them in their marketplace, in their industry? So that's how I measure what I do in regards to business.
Thank you for that, Sharon. That was great. The impact, the word impact, very powerful word, impactful word. So let's see. I know we keep losing people when they're popping in and the phones are ringing. So who's ever listening to us out there or who's listening on the recording, we are just having all kinds of gremlins on Halloween. So not sure what's going on, but bear with us. And Suzette, I appreciate you keeping coming and going and coming and going. We appreciate you being in here. I'm feeling pretty tough in my mustache, having a hard time thinking about what I value is entertainment, obviously. So let's go ahead and we are going to jump over to, let's do Sherry, because Suzette, we keep losing you. So Sherry, you are on. Tell us about your business and what you find valuable in your business and how you measure it.
Okay, can you hear me? All right. Being it's Halloween, of course, I have a little bit of a head cold and had no voice this morning. So, every interesting thing that can happen is, and we all have to learn to be flexible, right? So, what I got was the question, what do you define as valuable in your business and other businesses, and how do you share that value and measure it? And we've had many different topics over the course of Funday. So something that I chose that I thought was important is corporate social responsibility. And that's also known as CSR. I would say that in summary, corporate social responsibility, it's really a way for our business or organizations to show that they care for our local community and the environment as a way of giving back. So one way that's obvious, of course, is to donate profits to various causes. I choose to be a bit more hands-on, and I like to volunteer my time directly to projects in my local causes. So um, for instance, October 18th, we did a run, a superhero run for CASA, and I joined the committee several months ago to bring this run to the Woodlands. And certainly, giving money is a wonderful thing to do. So I happen to have the time. So for me, volunteering my time is something that I have more of right now. So whatever it is, your time, talent, or treasure, I would encourage you to donate with one of those. Another thing you can do is and that I do, is pass along your old technology equipment. So if you have like an old office computer or a laptop laying around, you can hand them over to a local school who needs them to assist students in learning. And this goes the same as for old office supplies and furniture. And a way that I do that in my business, I am the board secretary for Sustainable Surplus Exchange. And that is a nonprofit where we prevent waste from entering landfills, and we take surplus assets from businesses and we donate them to other nonprofits and to churches and to schools and universities. Um, by donating, the companies that donate, we can measure them by giving them a report of what their diversion weight was. Now, this is very important because they have to report to their corresponding jurisdictions. And I'm more familiar with California law when it comes to this. I'm getting myself familiarized. I'm taking a composting class tomorrow, as a matter of fact. But anyway, let me give you an example on measuring. We diverted over 150,000 pounds from the landfill. And we've also recycled 20,000 plus pounds of e-waste and 21,000 pounds of heavy metals. So that's all part of your corporate social responsibility. There's larger companies that have brick and mortar buildings, unlike ours, where a lot of us are single owners, employees, etc. But they might do something like a bike incentive to reduce their carbon footprint and have their employees walk or cycle to work. So you can use in your own business, as I try to, green suppliers, local suppliers, protect wildlife projects, cutting down on delivery miles. And so recycling is something that's near and dear to my heart, everything from ink, batteries, light bulbs, and more. And my business cards are printed on recycled paper. So I like to walk my talk, and I think that's very important. There's a lot of long-term benefits to corporate social responsibility, and I think that in the long run, respecting and representing the local environment is a very good business model, and it can mean really long-term benefits for the future of our businesses. So I don't know how much time I have, so I don't want to take up too much, but when it comes to CSR, it's not only about benefiting society, but you want to know how it helps in my business. Well, I met a new client while I was volunteering at a fundraiser. So people of like mind, you're going to tend to meet at the various ways that you choose to delegate your time. And if you're looking for ways to help the environment and also getting involved in your local community, I would say CSR is a perfect strategy to take because at the end of the day, our customers and our employees are in our community. So another thing I do for my clients is I donate a portion of what they choose to pay me to a charity or nonprofit, and often I will ask them, is there one that they work with or that they would like to donate the money to? And that in a way gets them involved in the process as well through me. So I picked corporate social responsibility.
Sherry, you look really good as a blonde. I tell you.
Well,
Um,
and hair and
yeah.
hair.
And you know, it's funny because I didn't even think of this, but donating, Funday School has always been donation based, and I really haven't put that out there as much as I had hoped I would, but it's donation based, and we have had several donations, and those donations are going. One of my passions is land conservation, because that's one thing we can never replace is the land and nature preservation. So I hear you loud and clear, and that's a very another line item that could be on a balance sheet on how much the corporation is giving, not just in money but in time. Or what did you say? You had time, talent, or treasure.
Treasure. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And you
So
know
that was,
something, businesses now, a lot of them, they're actually giving days off for volunteering, and that's just part of their corporate social responsibility.
that's awesome. Does anyone else want to jump in and comment? Or just raise your hand and we'll get you up on the big screen. Okay, Jacoby.
Yeah, just a quickie with another example of this kind of strategy that I had never seen. And of course, I've been very aware of volunteerism and alternative ways to measure contribution in corporations since I've worked in corporations. When I sang with the United Nations Association International Choir in Houston, one of the things that was really cool was that members of the choir who were with corporations that had matching programs, their time in the choir was considered volunteer time.
Yeah.
And so we had 3-hour rehearsals once a week and longer ones monthly. And every hour that they basically racked up singing was translated into a dollar value that was donated back to the choir by companies like Exxon. I think Marathon did it. It was basically the oil and gas companies. So the oil and gas companies get a bad rep sometimes, not necessarily so much in Houston, but that was something that generated a lot of revenue and enabled the choir to do a lot of things that it wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So I thought that was a very creative volunteerism and donation model.
Yes.
And of course, Jacoby's model for her Energy Arts Alliance is all donation based as well. And I'm sure she'll talk to that when it's her turn to share. Any other comments? Porn stash. All right, Courtney. I'm not sure why. Sherry, thank you so much. That was great. I'm not sure, Courtney, why you have two, but don't worry about it because everything's working because we keep seeing people drop off. So, Courtney, we have the witch on the screen. We're going to go ahead and turn the keys over to you, witchy woman, so you can share with us what you have. You need to go ahead and let me unmute you if you don't know how.
I did. Am I, can you hear me now? Okay. For me, success is kind of simple. I love doing what I do. I do social media management for a few clients here in North Houston in the Woodlands, Texas. And I hung up my volunteer hats last year. I'm a mom of two, busy, and I was Miss Volunteer of the Year, PTO, PTA, you name it, I did it. Hung up that hat and said, let me focus on my business. And I am coming to the end of my first year, I'd say, in business. And the way I measure my success is really kind of crazy because I measure it in how much free time I have. My goal has been to perfect my business model, I guess you'd say, and work more efficiently, charge more money, and spend less time working. So success for me is sitting on the sofa watching the Saints kick butt last night. Got to plug my hometown. Success is also, for me, I'm an artist. I am a graphic designer by degree. So when I get I love this, or that's amazing, or gosh, you're so good, that for me is a personal success because I feel like I put my heart and soul into what I do, because I'm not just doing a job that's my skill, and that's my artwork that I stick out there. And currently, because the phone's going to ring right now. Because if you live in Houston, you know there's an election going on, right? And that's somebody calling for an election. Okay. And it's not going to shut up until it goes to the machine. So I took on a client last year. I took on a wine bar here in the Woodlands. Started out very basic, just posting media to their Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest accounts. And I have evolved to where they really depend on me. And so therefore charging more money, spending less time. And I have seen them succeed. So therefore, I feel like I have succeeded on their behalf. And I find that it gives me goosebumps. Witch goosebumps. Witchy goosebumps. I love that. I love knowing that, they give my name out, and one good job leads to another, so they will mention my name to anyone, and I've gotten to the point that I am selective. I've been learning, selective about who I want to work for. I want to only work for people who are going to bring me to the next level. So I want the bigger picture. So I'm getting selective in my success. And I'd say that sums it up. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Witchy goosebumps. You gotta love that. Witch goosebumps. Yeah. So I love that. I would, it's funny. It's fun to hear other people, because I personally would never think about measure of success as my free time. But what a great measure of success, because that free time can be used to contribute to whatever makes you more and gives you more energy to go do more of what you're passionate about. So that's a great share, and something I probably would have never thought about as a line item on a corporate spreadsheet, giving employees more free time to do X. So that's pretty cool. Any comments on what our redheaded witch had to share with us? Yeah, it looks like we've lost about 3 of our panelists, so we have my mustache is crooked, sorry. Looks like Sharon Jenkins says, yeah, she's not able to get back on video. We're just stuck looking at her Google picture. So who knows? I'm telling you, it's Halloween. There are more Google gremlins out there than normally are out there. So as we know, this is our last Funday School, everybody. That doesn't mean that, who knows, when I say last, I don't know what that morphs into. My vision would be to bring discussions like this to workshops throughout Houston going forward. So Jacoby's going to jump in here. So Jacoby, what you got?
I'm just communicating on behalf of those who are stuck in Gremlin Land. Sharon says she has something to say. So Sharon, I don't know if you unmute yourself. Do you have audio? Go ahead and give it a try.
Can you hear me? You can hear me? Great, great, great. I have been observing the younger generation, those in their 20s and 30s, and I'm proud to say I'm 57 years old, and I just love being a baby boomer. So this is not a reflection, but just an observation. When I say a negative reflection is what I should say, but an observation. This younger generation, they like taking it easy, and they like enjoying life, and I think we could learn from them. And I think I think in the future, as we get older and they start stepping up to the plate and really doing something with the business world, that we'll see that they will start incorporating things into business that allows you to take a break, to enjoy life. And I welcome that. I welcome that. I've been around for a while, and I've seen people die at their desk. I mean, jump out of windows because something happened in the market. all that kind of craziness. They're on meds, like 12 meds, because of the stress on their job. And they compete so, how can I say this? Competition is so fierce that you fear for your life, and there's bullying in the marketplace. So I love the fact that we are getting to a place where we can go in the marketplace. I think that is really cool. Okay, that's it for me.
Unmute myself. Anyone want to jump in on that? That's so true. That is so very true, Sharon. I mean, I'm up there with you in age and coming through corporate America myself, and even working for myself. I work more hours now, but it's really not work. I believe if you're passionate about what you do, it becomes not work. It just becomes being. When I'm in front of people and training them and helping them grow, whether it's on Funday School principles or on social media best practices, it's not work. But I hear you. These people that are in corporate America just working to the bone and not having balance in their life. And I think the younger generation, that's one of the things they demand when they go in for an interview. From what I've seen, they want to know it's a company that values that balance, so that whatever time they have, they can give back or use it for what makes them a better person and more a better contributor in their life. So anyone else want to comment on what Sharon had to say? All right. In that case, we are going to turn the keys over to our wonderful facilitator who's been with us the whole time for this whole ride for Funday School for Business. She was going to wear a costume today. She told us she was going to be Harry Potter, but her horn-rimmed glasses, something about the lightning bolt on her head wasn't going to work because of her bangs. So she can tell you more about that right now.
Well, I don't know if I'll be talking about the costume, but anyway, yeah, I got my hair cut in Chicago, and I couldn't find a way for the lightning bolt to be visible, so I figured I'd end up just looking like a geek in a striped scarf, which isn't really a costume, that's just me. So anyway, there are so many amazing points that have been brought up today. I don't even know where to begin. I do want to kind of start with Sharon's point and work backwards a little bit. Yeah, there have been some very interesting things in the news about this, and even some things in social media that I've seen. I think I saw one of our previous panelists post something as a bit of a rebuttal to her son's way of life. And it was really interesting because I'm probably closer in age to her, but I found myself relating to the son. And I think that just has to do with nature rather than generation. I am a Gen Xer. And so for me, I guess to relate to what Sharon is saying, I've found, and I think this is the case in the life of any person or enterprise or volunteer group or any living organism, basically, is that the currencies that we value change over time. And I'm not going to address success because success isn't in my vocabulary anymore. Value is an evolution, a next evolution of the concept of success. So let me start with success. Success was my most important currency my entire life until a certain point. First, it was defined as success in nursery school. Then it was defined as success in kindergarten. Then it was defined as success on the back of a horse in 3-day eventing classes. Then it was defined as success getting a date, which I've sucked at. Then it was defined as success getting into Brown. Then it was defined as success getting into Harvard. And then I got out into the real world. And I had no idea how to define my success. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so then success got defined in the midst of, I came out of school in 1988 initially, and then came out of grad school in 1991. And it was kind of the Gordon Gekko, Wall Street, greed is good, whole culture and vibe and ocean, which is so contrary to my being, that it was a very painful time to be a young person trying to get a job in the professional market. And part of the problem was that everybody who had a pedigree like mine was going to Wall Street or was expected to go to big, high-paying jobs, and that was so not me. I had studied languages, I had traveled all over the world, I was interested in studying cultures, I had studied art history. And And I ended up, it was interesting because I ended up, because of what I was interested in, taking jobs that didn't pay a lot. And for me, money wasn't very important, but even, at Ivy League schools, that was the measure if you'd made it in those days. So for me, the currency that replaced money was status. And so I came out of all these schools expecting to have the corner office and the best computer and all my talents and all my degrees and all my good grades recognized. And up until then, things had come pretty easily. And so my constant, measuring stick was if I was being recognized. It was completely determined by how other people perceived me, whether they could put what I did into a box. And I've told this story before on other fun days, but one of my hardest performance reviews ever was in my first job out of graduate school. And I've always been a jack of all trades, but I'm not surface at stuff. I'm pretty good at what I set my mind to learning about. And so it was very interesting because the board of advisors of the think tank I worked with had just hailed 2 pieces that I'd written. We were a strategic planning, long-term strategic planning think tank. We did 10 to 25-year forecasts. And I wrote a paper on the future of Islam. This was in 1991. And I wrote a paper on the future of Turkey as a services business hub. And the board of advisors, here I was, this, snot-nosed little brat, and they were basically said to the entire board of all these PhDs that had been there for 25 years, these 2 papers are the future of this think tank. We need more like this. And 1 week after that, my supervisor called me into the office and gave me the worst performance review I've ever had because he said, you don't fit here. We can't put you in a category. You're not history, you're not politics, you're not health, you're not technology, you're not environment. And I said, yeah, I'm all of them. I can connect the dots. That's why the people like these papers, because I made conclusions about Islam that were based on their dance patterns. It was like, so that was a really first big wake-up call that that success as a currency or status as a currency might not get me very far because I didn't fit traditional definitions of success. And similarly, I didn't fit traditional definitions of beauty. I have a big Hungarian nose. I got big Hungarian ears. I look like a guy. I didn't fit in with the little pert, blonde, Farrah Fawcett look that was huge in 1979 when I lived in California for a year. And so it was a very interesting journey of trying to define what I valued. So, fast forward many years, and a lot of bad things happened that I didn't have any control of that started me asking for help. Philosophically, not directly, but I started to ask the big questions of, I think I'm a pretty good person. Why are bad things happening to me? And that was basically what prompted a lot of things to happen, including blowing my knee out when I was burned out at the age of 28. I was doing Sharon's thing, and I had achieved every goal that I'd set for myself after I redefined what my goals were supposed to be when I got out of college. And I was completely burned out. I was working 22-hour days to keep up with the PhDs, people who I was doing the work and they were taking the credit. It was just horrible. It was so competitive. And there were very good things about the job, but it was a very status, kind of intellectual status-based thing. And if you weren't doing original research, then you weren't getting promoted, and et cetera, et cetera. So, the universe caused me to destroy my knee and to cause me to sit back and really start defining my currencies and what I valued. So flash forward many years and waking up to the reality that Sharon shared at the very beginning, that you reap what you sow or you get back what you plant. When my partner and I set about forming Energy Arts Alliance, and this is circling back to Courtney's point, we really looked at what the culture of our contribution to life was going to be and how we wanted to live each day and how we wanted to create each day. And we realized that we did our best work in the car when we were driving across country. And so for us, the most important currency was adventure. And we found that our client base is not ignited and we're not having impact, as Sharon said, if we aren't passing along a sense of adventure, either in what we're creating or where we are or what we're doing. We've just come from 3 weeks in Chicago going there for the International Film Festival and for 2 organ concerts and for the David Bowie Is exhibit at the Museum of Contemporary Art, and that's the only place in the U.S. it's showing. For me, my ability to see the David Bowie Is concert or exhibit is way more valuable than any money anybody could pay me. Now, fortunately, I have money to be able to pay the entrance fee, but still, that was way more important to me than putting in some other hard work that day. And in fact, it prompted a lot of creative thinking about how we will present our next materials. So I know I'm talking a lot. We've got a lot of time. I just want to bring up two more points to address this. And part of the issue for me that I've seen with value, and part of what Energy Arts Alliance has done in structuring our model, is to break out of the modes of this is the way things are done. And that's why I don't use the word success anymore, because success is kind of yesterday, and I don't mean that as success is still a very useful term, but my job is to break the mold on sort of where things are today and move into the future for most people. And so for me, the future is really coming up with either accounting practices or corporate policies or government policies that start injecting new creative ways to measure, whatever that means, value in addition to profit. Because that's part of the issue now, is that we just, even tax-wise, we don't have tax codes that measure or incent anything other than profit. Of course, we've got, tax breaks for solar and things like that, but institutionally, we don't have a tax structure that really supports anything other than profit or money being included in the mix. So I did just want to bring up two things that have been in the news, some over the last few years and some more recently. Some of you may have heard of Ello. Ello is emerging as an alternative to Facebook. It was a bunch of friends in Vermont who started this up, and Vermont is full of those Sharon sort of characterized millennials who are farming and taking it easy and living the kind of surfer lifestyle, but doing really cool things. So Ello had promised that it would never have advertising and never sell data about its users to third parties. So people are flocking over to Ello in droves. I put my name on an invite list 2 months ago, and I still haven't been invited to have an account. What's interesting is that last week they announced that they basically, okay, we're going to prove, and we're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to prove that we're never going to accept ads or third-party or sell third-party data, and they became a B corporation. So I just wanted to bring out this B corporation. It's a for-benefit corporation, and more you'll see products that have a B on it that kind of look almost like a basketball B, and they have very interesting ways in which they're measuring and the requirements that you have to fulfill in order to be a B corporation. And what Ello has said is, point one, according to our charter, we will never accept ads. Point two, we will never sell data to a third party. And point three, if Ello is ever sold, the organization that it's sold to has to continue in perpetuity, points 1 and 2. So there's some controversy in that they've accepted money from the venture capitalists. I see your hand up, Shelley, so I'm going to stop and mute myself.
Yeah, I can get you an invite to Ella. I got in. I don't even know how, but I call it ELO, like hello, hello. Are you saying the B, like in green, the same B that and for the banks and everything when green was real big and banks and no, this is different. This is a B for
benefit.
For benefit corporations. Okay, so that's brand new. That's nothing. There was a B designation. Okay, cool. Okay, just that checking. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing to check out. And basically, a for-benefit corporation has to be a good or a service that is providing benefit to the world, to the community, not just profit. Of course, profit is built in. It should be profitable as well. So that's one point. And just the second point I'll bring up, there are two more points I want to bring up. Second sort of data point I want to bring up is that the CEO of the Container Store gave a very interesting interview last week also. And part of the problem with value is definitely driven by stock exchanges. And again, it works to a certain degree, but as we move into a new era, it's going to have to evolve. And what the CEO of the Container Store said is they went public last year in November, about this time. And they've been in business since, I think, 1978 or 79. But they felt they needed to go public, because if they didn't, they would either have to take on more debt, declare bankruptcy, or sell. And they didn't want to do any of those things. And what's really interesting is that his year's experience with the stock market has been that because there is what's called guidance, quarterly guidance, expected on the part of investors, read, the big guys, Morgan, and, these investment houses, that basically companies are pressured and expected to give quarterly reporting. And so what's really interesting is that Container Store tanked a couple of weeks ago. And what he came out and said is basically, we've never been more optimistic about our business than now. All these measures and indicators show that they're in great shape, but the measures that the analysts at the big stock houses have decided is important mean that their stock tanked. And we saw this with AMD earlier this year. Same thing happened. They were off by like point something on one measure, and the stock tumbled, and it hasn't returned. So the CEO of the Container Store has said that they are not going to give quarterly reports to Wall Street anymore, even though they're publicly traded. And that is a very bold move. 3M has done the same thing, and there is some other massive company, it was in that article, that's not reporting at all. I mean, they'll do their annual reports, which are required by the government, but they are not reporting to investors anymore, because they said that this investor rhythm of quarterly is so contrary to the long-term health of the business. So these are the types of things that have to happen in order for a new discussion and a new definition of value to happen. Because whether we like it or not, until the corporations take on new models, expanded models, start not only providing gym memberships and providing volunteer days, but actually measuring that impact on the bottom line, which some of them are starting to do, that's when things will really change. And then from the ground, also the millennials will say, we're not going to work this way. So, there won't be anybody who wants to work at a corporation, and that will change things as well. The final thing that I want to say, and I'm just talking a lot because I know we have a lot of time and few people, so just cut me off at any time, Shelley. But the final point is, if we look at the most stable structure, one of the most stable structures in the universe is a stool. It's a three-legged object. And we see the power of threes in many, many things. And that is because this three kind of is a universal format for how things exist. So we can look at those threes. The first leg is basically the will or purpose of the thing. It's like there's an idea for something to be created. And then that thing comes into creation, or is sort of brought into the framework for it to happen, and then it's expressed out into the world. So we have basically a conceptualization phase, we have a sort of putting the structure, a structuring phase, and then we have an expressing phase. Once that thing is out in the world, then that sort of group of three translates into three rhythms that happen throughout the life cycle of any living thing, again, whether it's a company or a solopreneur operation or an individual. So we have a phase where we're creating, and then after we've created, there's a phase of preserving. So that's the preservation of what's been created, the care, the water, the feeding. And then there's a destruction phase, which is kind of like the wildfire in a forest that clears out the brush to allow the sunlight to come in for the next phase of growth. So this is another challenge with the way things are valued so much in terms of profit. Every organization, every project needs to go through a phase that's highly creative, and then it goes through a preservation phase where it's probably making a lot of money, and then it comes to a clearing phase where you're clearing out the dead wood of that project or that organization or a person's life, the things that are obsolete that no longer serve. So it's similar also to singing. You have these times where you're singing out and you're exhaling, but then there are interludes and rests that are more quiet, and then you're inhaling. And so that's a time when you may be losing money, in terms of the balance sheet. So even this concept that's really become insane with the stock exchanges and the quarterly reporting that things are going up and 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 up. It's not the way life works. It's a wrong value. So that's my final point, is even for any of us, that there are times like there are times where we should be valuing that we're not working hard. There are times when we're supposed to be resting. There are times when we're supposed to be cogitating and thinking, but not expressing. There are times we're supposed to be relating to people, but it's not so much about making money. And a lot of us follow these rhythms naturally, but this really needs to be built in even more in a classroom. You know, there are times when kids are not supposed to be filling their heads all the time. There are times when they got to be moving their bodies. There are times when they're supposed to be building their heart. I came out of all of these wonderful Ivy League schools with a big old head, but not much of an ability to relate one-on-one because I cared more about the world than I did about individual people. So this imbalance of like always up, 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 which is contrary to nature, this will break. And we're seeing it breaking in places. And so that, in the aftermath of that, then there have to be people ready who have the capacity to be able to measure, who understand economics in a new way, who understand corporation in a new way, who can start creating these measures. But we can obviously start in our own ways by finding the ways to communicate to people widely those things that are alternative currencies. The free time, you know, the volunteer time, the good health, the ability to walk in nature, the ability to adventure, whatever it is. I mean, I have more brilliant ideas when I'm watching people surf. I mean, for me, that's when I can really produce amazing stuff. Now, what employer, if I work for a corporation, except maybe Google, would allow me to go out and watch surfers all day in order to create the next big thing? So I'll leave it with that.
Yeah, Google's an amazing company, and you know, everything you're so passionate, you can feel your energy coming through. I mean, there has to be a shift, there has to be a change. The third book I'm working on, and Jacoby is going to be the editor on my third book. So we're going to try and get not only all the other fun days. All the other fun days were a lot of philosophies, and this fun day was really about how do you put all this into practice. And you know, everything in nature is ebb and flow. Everything is live and die, regeneration. And yet you're so right, Jacoby. You know, everything, you know, we don't forgive ourselves. We call ourselves lazy if we're just sitting back. And I mean, I'm guilty of this myself. It's like, why do I feel like I always have to be productive? And it's almost like learned behavior coming up through, as you said earlier, kindergarten all the way up. Produce, produce, produce. But who's to say that when I'm sitting back there in my, as I call it, the back 40, my little piece of heaven on the creek behind my house in the heavily wooded creek, looks, Courtney, a lot like the woods up there. When I'm sitting back there communing with nature, the energy that I'm putting out and getting back is going to make me a better social media, whatever. So ebb and flow, that's what it's about. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of pull all this back together in our topic for today. I really do believe that we've got to come up with a new balance sheet. I never even thought about it from a tax perspective and how to have a new tax structure. Boy, that going to the federal government, we know how fast they move. But being able to, the third book is going to possibly be all around a balance sheet that lists other assets like we talked about in our call today. Money is not the only means of measure of success. Somehow we've got to be able to measure how we embrace our consciousness and how our quality of life and you know, what else is there for our shareholders other than profits? Maybe it is the time donated to causes. Maybe it is employees spending more time watching surfers on the beach so that they're inspired to create. Maybe it's laughter. Maybe it's fun. Maybe this balance sheet has trust on it, authenticity, being who you are without trying to be somebody else. Accountability can be a currency. You know, it's okay to be held accountable and be accountable and to live, make sure that I spend, I call it Shelley time. It's on my calendar. Every Monday and Friday is Shelley time. I don't always get to implement it, but that Shelley time is really important to me and my business being successful. So I think we'll go ahead and if anyone has any final comments before I wrap, would anybody like to jump in and add anything? Then I'm going to go ahead and say that moving forward, Funday School is going to continue and live in the upcoming book, and you all of our panelists will be part of that, and everybody that's joined in the discussions. We appreciate you being part of our Funday School. They're always broadcast and broadcast and recorded and available on YouTube, and I've been publishing them on LinkedIn. We've gotten another 200 views just through LinkedIn, which is really, really great. I appreciate everybody that watches. I want to thank all of the panelists that have been on in the past and our panelists for today. And even though this is our last session, I'm hoping to bring this knowledge to other companies out there and to corporate America in hopes that I can be part of making a difference in how we measure success going forward in business. And thanks, everybody. It's been great being with you. Have a fantastic Halloween, and we hope your gremlins do not find you. So Orange is the New Black. Hey, Piper's going to be joining me tonight as we travel to a couple parties, and you guys have a great rest of the day. Please stay on, and we'll do a little debrief. So hang in there, panelists. We're going to go ahead and end the broadcast.